Most emergencies come without warning, and when the next one comes, you won't have a second to spare on packing and preparing. You need to get ready right now before an emergency strikes. Your supplies should be within reach, ready to grab and to go at a moment's notice. Secure those supplies at my website, preparewithwhitlock.com. Start with a 4-week emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Helping millions of American families prepare since 2008, My Patriot Supply are the experts in all things self-reliance. Their 4-week emergency food kits offer over 2,000 calories every day. Protected by heavy-duty 4-layer packaging, these kits last up to 25 years in storage. These delicious foods are sealed inside rugged buckets with handles designed to grab in a hurry. Go to preparewithwhitlock.com and get as many food kits as your family needs for $50 off each. They will ship fast and free in unmarked boxes. Save $50 per kit at preparewithwhitlock.com. That's preparewithwhitlock.com. I have these myself. You guys need to be prepared.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러
Steve, great topic. I think we talked a little bit about this last week. Shaquille O'Neal fired up and taking shots at Nikola Jokic and questioning whether he should have been the MVP. It seemed kind of personal. We talked about it here on the show. Went after Shaq a little bit. Shannon Sharpe, Club Shay Shay, who again, it's incredible how much praise I've been giving Shannon Sharpe here lately. But Shannon Sharpe actually agreed with me. Not that he agreed, but he had this similar take. I want to start here with Shannon Sharpe questioning very politely Shaq's, and this would be SOT number 6, I believe. Shannon Sharpe very politely, attacking or pushing back against Shaq and his criticism of Nikola Jokic. Play the clip.
We're never going to see another guy Shaq's size with his athleticism that was as dominant as him. Shaq should have 5 MVPs. He sees a guy like Nikola Jokic that's not as dominant as him and gets 3 and 4 years. But see, when you historically great, they talk about you as great basketball player. The GOAT, and Shaq is never brought up. And I think a part of him is envious of that.
When we talk about the greatest basketball players of all time as far as the GOAT conversation, Shaq's name is never brought up in that?
Yeah. It's hard for me to put somebody in the GOAT conversation with 1 MVP, regular season. It's hard, Gil. So we're going to take somebody with 1 regular season MVP and put him in front of people that got 3, that got 4, that got 5. If Shaq would have had, if he'd had my work ethic, he'd have had 40,000 points.
Woo! Shannon Sharpe being very transparent, very honest, and very accurate. And that is not a slight. What Shannon is saying is like, hey man, I was a 6'2", 235-pound tight end. Do you know how much work I had to put in to be a Hall of Famer? And I got no regrets, is what Shannon's saying, because I gave it my all. Shaq has regrets because he didn't give it his all. And I can relate to that. This is, again, why I'm sympathetic. One of my biggest regrets in life is the way I handled my Ball State football career. It's not because I thought I could have been in the NFL, but I know I didn't give it my all and I cheated myself, and I have great regrets. And look, I was a major contributor and starter for 2 years. But man, I should have been an all-conference player. I should have probably been a 4-year starter if I had given it my all, and I didn't, and I live with that regret every day. I think Shannon's 1,000% accurate here. Shaq has dropped a diss track going after Shannon Sharpe. SOT number 8, we'll play about a minute of this, I think, unless there's context I'm not. But here's Shaq firing back at Shannon Sharpe.
Oh no, Shannon Sharpe, man, you're way beneath me. Your whole demeanor is faker than new rapper Beefy. You're soft, before you get fly, you rather tweet me. I was in 3 different cars when you was in 3 feet. All I see is dollar signs, they come in 3D. Make it hot, ain't no way around my degree. You are not in my spot, you are like a peewee. Shula got them calling me Rocky the way I re-re. I get to the greenback, I don't mean a lawnmower. Jet flying, foreign driving, Best Buy and Donpora. I'm the one and only, I want it, won't be no encore. It ain't about the money, then what I gotta respond for.
Everybody's going after Shannon Sharpe. And I thought Shannon was being very polite and respectful. But Shannon Sharpe is a target. I think there's some people are jealous of the success of Club Shay Shay. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the big Kendrick, or is it the big sensitive? I mean, here's the thing, and this is where I am completely on board. I'm Team Sharpe here because he was one of my favorite tight ends in that era. Okay, so from the time that Michael Jordan retired with the Bulls, that's what I think of his real career, which was the end of the 97-98 season. At that point till about the first year that he was with the Miami Heat, in my view, Jason, Shaquille O'Neal should have been racking up MVPs, but he only got one. Okay, and you can argue about that 1 year he didn't get it to Steve Nash. I get it. But there was a window of time when he was by far the most dominant force in all of basketball. And the bottom line is he didn't always work hard. He called it company time when he would delay surgeries. He would miss a lot of games. You could do the hack-a-shack, which in a certain way, it kind of limited his effectiveness late in games. We've talked about the fact he never led the league in rebounds or blocks as the most dominant five in that style of NBA, which was still a lot more of a half-court game. The key was packed in tight. I just look at Shaq, and it reminds me what you just said about yourself. I'll never forget about 3 years ago during the lockdown, I was at a boxing gym, and I was working out, and one of my favorite fighters of all time, a guy that used to cuss me out all the time in good fun, James Lights Out Tony, who was one of the very best fighters I've ever seen. He was my favorite fighter before I even covered boxing, but he had an issue with discipline after a while. And he would always come out of shape where he would just barely make weight. And then he blew the fight with Roy Jones because he didn't train. And we're having a discussion about various things about boxing. And he said, Steve, I look back at it. He goes, I only ever beat myself. He goes, I should have trained harder. I could have been more disciplined. Jason, I almost fell off my bench because if you ever would have brought that up to James Toney 10 years ago, he would have growled at you like a grizzly and you would have ran like Usain Bolt. I actually could not believe he was so calm and rational and said, Steve, that's on me. I wish I could do that again because I could have been even better. And he was a spectacular, fabulous fighter. Here's what I don't like. A couple things in defense of Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe may not be considered one of the greatest football players ever. I think he's in the discussion for the top 100. In my view, when it comes to the Mount Rushmore of tight ends, and I think this is the way you have to judge it, he's in my Mount Rushmore. Now, you can make an argument that maybe a guy like Travis Kelce has knocked him off, and now he's number 5. But there was a time I thought he was right up there with anybody that played the game. I think Gronk's the greatest tight end I've ever seen. You certainly have to give guys like Kellen Winslow, John Mackey, Mike Ditka, Tony Gonzalez credit. But Shannon Sharpe not only was this big receiver whose game today would really translate, he'd be an absolute nightmare if you moved him around like a queen on a chessboard, right? But Jason, I'm not saying he's the greatest blocker that ever lived. All I'm saying is he was the tight end on a team that had a 2,000-yard rusher in 1998. He was getting in the way of somebody, and he also had some productive moments with the Baltimore Ravens, helping them to a Super Bowl. In fact, he had a slant pattern that he took 96 yards against Oakland. There's not a lot of tight ends that could have made that play. So Shannon Sharpe's being a little modest when he says, well, I'm not one of the GOATs. Honestly, when it comes to your position, Shannon, you are one of the GOATs. Now, Jason, to your point about the jealousy and the crabs in a bucket mentality that is forming around Club Shay Shay, I think it's incredibly unfair. I really do, because no matter what he says, they're going to find a way to just naturally take apart his argument or what he says, take it out of context, or just disagree to disagree and to almost exploit his own popularity for their own clicks and views. And I do feel bad for Shannon in this sense. If he tries to please everybody, he'll please nobody. So he might as well just keep being who he is and just deal with the bullets coming his way.
Shannon Sharpe is extremely fascinating to me because this transition to a level of self-awareness has blown me away because I watched him for 7 years do this Malcolm X impersonation that didn't fit him, and he was trying to be baby Louis Farrakhan. And to now see him transition the way he has with Club Shay Shay, where I can't remember the last time I really had a critical word for him, it blows my mind. And it's I look at things like this because I think he has himself perfectly pegged. That because I don't put him on the Mount Rushmore of tight ends. Kellen Winslow, Travis Kelce, Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski. I don't think he's in their league. But if you had a Mount Rushmore of athletes, just athletes who maximize their talent,
yes,
I think Shannon Sharpe's right there with Tom Brady as the two guys I would start with, and try to think of some NBA players that maybe Isaiah Thomas. Here, this guy is 6'1", took his team to to 2 NBA titles, won a national title in a sport that rewards size. Isaiah didn't have it, but figured out a way. And so I would Shannon Sharpe, Tom Brady, Isaiah Thomas, and then I'd have to start thinking of a fourth person to put in. Maybe it's a baseball, maybe it's a boxer. I don't know who maxed out their talent, but I would put Shannon Sharpe right there with anybody,
Jason.
and Shannon knows that, and that's, yeah.
My fourth on your list would be Bernard Hopkins. Learned to box basically in jail at the Greaterford Institute, lost his pro debut, and he'll tell you, I did not have the natural ability of a Roy Jones or James Toney, but there's a reason why he was an effective boxer all the way to the age of 50. I have never seen a guy live the life he did. He made monks look undisciplined. But I'm going to push back. Travis Kelce, great player. If Shannon Sharpe played in today's game and he was utilized the way Andy Reid uses him, I think he'd do the exact same thing. Jason, I have a question for you because I was thinking about this as we're preparing for this segment. Would Shaq make your Mount Rushmore of big men, true fives?
NBA centers, well, you got to go Kareem.
Right.
You got to go Bill Russell. You got to go Wilt.
Okay.
And then it's a debate between Hakeem, Moses, and Shaq. Those are the guys he'd be in a debate with. And Nikola Jokic may end up in that debate as well. But I don't think I'm leaving anybody else off because people don't realize, people have forgotten how good Moses Malone was. People have forgotten to some degree how good Hakeem was. And again, if Shaq had maxed out or got 85% out of his talent, he'd be the greatest. There wouldn't be a question in the world.
The guy that the heavens did not bless him with durability, Bill Walton would have been in that discussion, except he was very brittle. But Jason, my guy on my Mount Rushmore that you talked about, Akeem Olajuwon. I believe that he's the best center, best pure five post Kareem. That his 2 years that when he won the title, those Jordan-less Larry O'Brien trophies, he elevated big man play to a level that I've never seen on both sides of the court. And keep this in mind, Jason. I saw this in one of these videos. Board Films. Joseph Vincent does some great documentary productions on YouTube. And he pointed out that Akeem Olajuwon is the only player that led a team to back-to-back titles with no all-star teammates. I mean, he took a lot of solid NBA players like Otis Thorpe, Kenny Smith, older Clyde Drexler came over, Vernon Maxwell, Matt Bullard, and he made them better on both sides of the court. And they'll tell you, we're probably a 30, 25-win team without him. Akeem Olajuwon, in my view, if it came down to him and Shaq, give me the guy that played hard every night. Give me the guy that actually rebounded and defended the rim at a superior level.
I cannot argue with your argument. Only thing I wouldn't push back with Shaq. I'd push back with Moses Malone. I just don't think people
that was his mentor,
fully
by the way.
understand. Yeah, just how good Moses Malone was, and just how unstoppable
3
he was.
MVPs
And
for
that
Moses.
Yeah. That 4-4-4, which wasn't really 4-5-4, but he said 4-4-4.
Yeah, they had one loss in the playoffs that year.
Yeah. That Sixers team, 4-4-4, incredible. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hop in the comments and tell us who's on your Mount Rushmore of NBA centers and whether Shaquille O'Neal makes that list. We'll see you next time. Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with our latest content.